What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're on to the final weekend of the Rugby World Cup, which means we've got two more previews left to do before the World Cup is unfortunately over. We're going to be starting out today with the third place playoff, as the crocodile wants to point out there. England versus Argentina. I know a lot of people are a bit down on the third place playoff and what have you. I've seen a couple of comments from people like, oh, you know, what does third place matter and what have you. It does maybe not mean as much in the world rugby context. Like, you know, if you think back about previous World Cups, I probably couldn't name you who came third place over the last, 4 or 5 World Cups and stuff. But it does make for some very exciting rugby because both teams already know they're not going on to win the World Cup. Nothing to lose. Play some fun rugby. So hopefully we'll get to see a really awesome game of rugby. So we're going to have a run through the teams that have been announced on both sides, go over some thoughts on what we could probably expect from this game, and finally, of course, give a score prediction. Make sure you drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the teams as well as who you predict will go on to win this game. Starting out then with the home team class for this one. It's kind of weird because they did the semi-finals stuff. We'll go for the home team is going to be Argentina, I believe, who last week played New Zealand in a pretty monster game for New Zealand. Looked in control the whole time, just sort of ransacked them over. A lot of people I've seen quite a few comments. People were like, "It's the draw. The draw of the World Cup has ruined this semi-finals." I think unfortunately the way the draw worked, one round was going to have more sort of lackluster games that maybe weren't going to be quite as competitive. In my predictions for the whole World Cup, I did my big prediction video. I had my quarterfinals to be kind of like, I don't think the quarterfinals are going to be great, but the semifinals were going to be awesome. In the way that it actually turned out, the quarterfinals were quite fun in the actual World Cup. The semifinals, however, the Argentina and New Zealand game, unfortunately, really didn't live up to like a semi-final hype at the World Cup, and Argentina probably took very few positives from that game. Unfortunately, it just felt like two teams at different stages, and so they did lose that game kind of heavily. Only came away with 6 points, didn't get a try. Boffelli got 100% of their points for them. It's a bit of a shame for them. You would like to see them be able to take a lot of momentum into this game, but they're going back up against England. There's a bit of redemption to happen here because, of course, they played these teams in the pool stages, right? And England won this one really heavily. Argentina played terribly in this game in the pool stages. So you would hope that they could turn something around and maybe look at this as a target game for a bit of redemption at the World Cup. So in terms of the team itself, then, not a great deal of changes to talk about then. Starting on that front row, Thomas Gaggio, Julian Montoya and Francisco Gomez Cordella taking back over in that front row. Now, the scrummaging last week, oh boy, scrummaging might be a concern. You'd never think you'd say that about Argentina, but that New Zealand scrum was looking like they were getting pretty on top of this game by the end of that one. So they'll want to have doubled down on this area for this week and make sure they can improve that, because the England scrum could be up for a good scrap. England scrum struggled last week against South Africa, but the South African scrum at the minute's looking pretty top tier, whereas it felt a little bit more like New Zealand just had a perfectly fine scrum, worked very well, and Argentina looked a little bit lackluster for me. In terms of the lock department, one change coming in here. We still got Guido Petti in that number 4 shirt, but Pedro Rubiolo is going to be starting out in the number 5 shirt. No Lavanini. This might be the first Argentina team I've spoken about in a long time where we have neither Lavanini or Alemano in the team, in the starting 15. Kind of wild, but we're going with Guido Petti and Rubiolo. We'll see how they get on. And then finally, in that back three, Juan Martin Gonzalez, Marcus Kramer, and Facundo Isa in that number 8 shirt. Same back row as we got to see last week. So only that one change with Rubiolo going into that lock department. In the halfback partnership, Thomas Cubelli goes in alongside of Santiago Carreras. Bertrano not in this game after just managing to get in for that one game against the semi-final, taking back out. Cubelli back in now in that scrum half position. Santiago Carreras is an interesting call for me. Depending on how they want to view this game, if I was Argentina going into this one, I just want to take the win from this game. I'd want to stamp out that we had a terrible game in the pool stages. I'd want to play this one quite like a test match. I maybe wouldn't want to run this game wild, and I would maybe just want to think about getting a win over England, finishing third place, still very respectable, and beating the team that beat you in the pool stages. I personally would have lent towards Nicolas Sanchez starting this game, and just having him out on the pitch just to organise that team a little bit better. Maybe take over some of the kicking duties if you didn't want to be solely reliant on Boffelli. I feel like when Sanchez has been coming on, this Argentina team has felt a little bit more organised, a little bit more professional. The layout of the team, where they're coordinating, seems to be a little bit better. I might have liked to have seen Sanchez start this one, and just kept them in the game, made sure, you know, they're not going down on the scoreboard or what have you, and then maybe bring on Santiago Carreras a little bit later on to add a little bit of flair, a little bit of attack into the Argentina team to try and, you know, pump up that accelerator a bit. In the centre partnership, De La Fuente goes in alongside of Lucio Cinti. No Choco Perez this week, not on the bench either, but De La Fuente still a hard man to stop on full tilt at full speed. And then finally in that back three, Mateo Carreras, Boffelli and Juan Cruz Malia once again taking over that back three. So yeah, only one change in the forwards, only two changes in the backs, but hopefully a better overall performance from this Argentina team, because I really don't think they'll be too happy with that performance they had against New Zealand. In terms of the replacements, then we have Augustin Crevi goes in alongside of Sclavi, and Bejo will be your replacement front row, as we've been used to seeing across this World Cup. The rest of the replacement forwards, Alemano and Bruni, will be coming on in that second half, I assume, in the number 8 shirt for Condoisi. So they tend to be wanting to play Gonzalez for the full 80. And then in the replacement backs, Bazan, Velez, Sanchez, and Matias Moroni coming on once again. So not a lot of changes to talk about in this Argentina team. It's going to be looking more at their actual performance and hoping to see an improvement. Hoping to see it, you know, just sort of work on all those sort of key areas. One thing that I think was really detrimental against that New Zealand team for Argentina was how narrow they were defending. How many tries did we see go over from people like Will Jordan, Mark Talea making room on the wing, Geordie Barrett scoring as well. They're all scoring in these corners, man, because Argentina are defending so narrowly when being up against it, especially in their own 22. England have plenty of, you know, really attacking backs that will score right in the corner, and they've also got those powerful centres, people like Tuolagi, just to help narrow up your defence as well. Something I want to be seeing from Argentina in this game, that set piece improving, especially a team against like England, where I think, you know, could be a good challenging set piece game, but also their defence. Don't bunch up, don't narrow in, keep your solid line, and just keep those solid defensive tackles coming. We saw a number of dominant tackles against New Zealand at really pressured times. That's what you want to be seeing. But when someone gets that dominant tackle, you want to be seeing people rush over that ball, committing the jackal. You've got to push New Zealand all the way back, you know, onside. Do the same against England. Really make them work for it at the breakdown. Speaking of who then, we need to move on to talk about this England team that, man, what a close game this one turned into. I really thought South Africa we're going to take charge of that game. And they didn't. England looked in control of the game for long periods of time. But that England game plan that has stuck with them for a long time, of this taking the threes, going for these points, and not even seemingly looking at tries or not being able to convert territory into tries. We did see a couple of occasions where they got into that South African 22 and a line-out throw would let them down. Someone's handling would let them down. Their most reliable thing is doing the high kicks, winning penalties, winning turnovers, and taking the three. It's worked for them. We saw it in that first game against Argentina. That's all they needed to do. George Ford crushing it, you know, from the boot in that first game. But sometimes you need to be able to have a bit more of a plan B and get over that try line a bit. England have made a lot of changes. England have shifted up quite a lot from that team that went up against South Africa, and I'm kind of interested to see how it goes, because I want to see this team get over for tries. I want to see them get a number of scores. I don't want to see them rely on the boot. Winning a third place playoffs for England by just kicking their way over, I don't really know what they're going to learn by doing that. I want to see the backs involved. I want to be seeing tries in the corner. I want to be seeing these forwards work together better with some of the changes they've had coming in. So starting in this front row, Ellis Genge, Theo Dan and Will Stewart. Okay? I've wanted to see a change up in this front row. They've been so stuck on, you know, Jamie George and Dan Cole just for the majority of the game. Theo Dan finally getting a start in the third place playoff of the World Cup. Nice to see that he's going to be getting a start, and hopefully will remain on the pitch for a long period of time and let him get into a game. Ellis Genge, you know, a solid running prop, and Will Stewart, you know, maybe I would rate Dan Cole slightly better in terms of the scrummaging, but, you know, Will Stewart's still a solid front row player to have on there. Looking forward to see how these boys get on. Hopefully they'll see an improvement versus what was going on in that game versus South Africa in terms of the scrummaging. In the lock department, Mauro Toje goes in alongside of Ollie Chessum. We saw this in the quarterfinals. Now, they did bring in George Martin last week, and I said in the preview video for that one, I was a little bit like, I don't don't quite understand why George Martin has come in for that game, because Ollie Chesham seemed to be performing so well. George Martin actually brought a huge amount of physicality to the game that I wasn't expecting, and actually was one of the better players in that England team going up against South Africa in terms of his offering, in terms of the defence. So actually, I might have after that game lent a little bit more towards George Martin, not in the team. I'm not sure if he actually picked up a knock in this game, but Ollie Chesham getting in. Again, I want to see pacey attack from some of these forwards. We know England have pacey forwards. Ollie Chesham got some good legs on him. You know, make sure you get him a little breakaway. He's a tough man to stop. Maybe get over there, get through that gain line, and send him on his way, and maybe let him cause a little bit of chaos in an actual running play rather than just using him as ruck support, which would be much, much better. In the back row then, big switch-ups here. Tom Curry goes into the 6 shirt. Sam Underhill comes in at 7. Didn't even know this guy was still playing international rugby. I thought he'd gone. Haven't said his name in a long, long time. And then Ben Earl comes in the number 8 shirt. I can't remember if Sam Underhill was even named in the squad that went out for the World Cup, or if he's been added in later. I haven't been keeping up to date with a lot of that sort of extra news and stuff. But interesting choice, because under Eddie Jones, I'm sure we actually saw Sam Underhill playing 6 and Tom Curry 7. They've specifically put them the other way around for this game, which is interesting. But Sam Underhill, again, another great player in terms of that breakdown. But again, pacey forward. Look at this back row for England now. Tom Curry, Sam Underhill, Ben Earl. All 3 of these lads have got gas. Get involved in the breakdown, get the ball in your hands, carry it yourselves, and go on the attack. I think that's a threatening back row, and they can score tries. I just don't want to see them used purely for the sake of getting jackals and getting those penalties for me. In terms of your halfback partnership, then Ben Youngs and Owen Farrell. Ben Youngs announcing his retirement from the international game after this game. So he's the most capped player over in England. So, big game for him. Hopefully he gets some good minutes in this one. Owen Farrell, getting on in a few years. I haven't seen anything, I don't think, about him announcing a retirement or anything. I thought, again, George Ford, what's the lad done wrong? Get him on. Give him some game time in this one, because I think he played so well at the start of the tournament. Owen Farrell's kicking game has been on point, to be fair, over the last couple of games, which is what you want to be seeing from him. But I would like to see George Ford, or I maybe want to see Marcus Smith play a little bit more of that 10 shirt. But it's the end of the World Cup. Maybe a big outing for Owen Farrell in this 3rd place playoff. And then in the centre partnership, Manu Tuilagi goes in alongside of Joe March in the same partnership we got to see last week. And then in the back 3, Henry Arundel moves to the left wing, Freddie Stewart out on the right wing, and Marcus Smith in at fullback. Some interesting choices here. I'm not entirely sure I understand what's going on here. Henry Arundel going out on the left wing. Looking forward to see that. There's a good bit of pace. I mean, he's not going to be on Mateo Carreras' wing, so we're not going to be seeing the that one-on-one pace. Freddie Stewart doesn't always land defensively for me. He's superb in the air. He's great at the kicking game. We've seen a good couple of games where players have got through his tackles, though. Putting him out on the wing against Mateo Carreras, I'm not entirely sure by that decision, especially if you're going to be playing him anyway. I don't know why you wouldn't play him at fullback. I think he's solid at fullback in terms of covering that backfield. They've experimented with this Marcus Smith playing the fullback, and I don't think he's had a bad game. He had a rough game against Fiji, but I don't think it was a bad game. But I'm not entirely sure I like that idea, that sort of setup. For me here, what I would maybe want to be seeing from this England team, I would maybe be wanting to use this as a platform for future games and where you want to be seeing this team going. I maybe would have lent towards Freddie Stewart in that fullback shirt. I'd have had someone else on that right wing. Marcus Smith moving to 10. And I'd have just had Owen Farrell maybe not in this one personally. That's only if you're thinking about this game specifically, though, as opposed to thinking about people's careers, outside of it and, the sort of event that it is. I would want to see Marcus Smith in at 10, let him run a game alongside of Ben Youngs. I might even lean towards having like Manu Tuilagi and Ollie Lawrence at centre, maybe even put Joe Marchant out on the wing, and sort of give him a crack and let Freddie Stewart play the fullback position. Some interesting switches here. Not sure I agree entirely with them, but you know what? It's a different England team. This is kind of what I want to see. I want to see things chop and change. I want to see a different performance from what we've got to see over the last couple of rounds. And then finally, in terms of the replacements, then Jamie George, Bevan Rodd, and Dan Cole, David Ribbans, and Lewis Ludlam, who feels like we haven't said his name as well for a little bit of time in this England team. So looking forward to seeing him come on. And then in the replacement backs, Danny Kerr, George Ford, and Ollie Lawrence. So one team sticking to their guns, one team mixing it up quite a lot. I'm really looking forward to this one, actually. Where do we see this game going? For me, I'm much more excited looking at that England team. I'm liking they've made a lot of changes for this game. Hopefully it means they're going to bring a different game plan to this one and maybe want to impact this game differently, play a bit more attacking, play for those tries rather than just looking for those 3 points. From an Argentina standpoint, this is a game you just want to win. I think they've done the right move, backing the same players, trying to get that consistency going. Getting the win over England will be a big positive for Argentina at the end of the World Cup, which I don't think has been their best performance at a World Cup all the way through. I think they've actually been slightly underwhelming, and they've improved a little bit as time has gone on. But I think getting the win over England will be a massive positive for them, especially after that big loss against New Zealand. From England's standpoint, I think they need quite a big performance. Again, I feel like they've been a bit sort of one track. The game against Chile, fair enough, they got a lot of points and stuff, but it's Chile. Every team was sort of doing it by the end of the game. I want to see them do it against like a tier 1 team, a top 10 team, and put in a solid performance, an attacking performance that's going to score tries. Maybe look for 3-4 tries. Think of it like you're playing another pool stage match. Maybe you're trying to look for that sort of bonus point and sort of lay down a bit of a marker. You've got nothing to lose, a bit more attacking, and the team they've put out for it suggests to me they're going to be playing for something of a bit of a different style, maybe looking ahead towards the next Six Nations or what have you. I'm looking forward to see this game. I'm leaning slightly towards England for this one. I think the scrummaging work last week, I would see maybe England actually, probably would have had a better scrum, but I think they were up against a bit of a tougher opposition in terms of scrum. The line out, I lean more towards England as well. And then that new sort of back row, I'm looking forward to see some pacey forwards coming in from England. And I'm a little bit worried still about that Argentina defence bunching up from the big carries. And you release people like, Henry Arundel out on that wing. I can see him causing all sorts of issues for them. So I'm going to lean towards England for this one. And I'm going to say England to win by 8. That's going to be what I'm going to go for, guys. Make sure you drop down in the comment section your thoughts on this game, as well as your own score predictions, because I always enjoy having a look through what other people have to say. Of course, we're going to be doing one of these for the final, New Zealand versus South Africa. That will be out some point today or tomorrow, whenever I have a second to sit down and actually film that one. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel to let you know when that video is out. And of course, over the course of the weekend, we will be doing the review videos for the end of the World Cup. It's absolutely flown by. It's been a lot of work doing videos, but it has absolutely flown by how quickly we've gone through the World Cup. But I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.